Hi everyone, how y'all doing? I hope it is a fabulous day wherever you are, no matter what time it is. It's the afternoon and it is thunderstorming outside. So I'm crossing my fingers that my lights don't go out. I made myself a cup of tea and I accidentally splashed so much half and half in here. I feel like I'm drinking like a milkshake. It's crazy, but we've got some hot tea. Ladies and gentlemen, Meghan appeared in New York City and spoke at the Time 100 Most Influential People Summit, something like that. This is the fifth annual, so this has been going on for 5 years. Of course, it's very, very apt that it began in 2020 at the height of when all of the champagne, limousine, elite liberal set love to award themselves and pat themselves on the back and all this kind of garbage. I want to talk about some few things. I want to go into the actual video with you guys, and I'll have to pause it at intervals because I don't want to get a copyright strike. So I understand people comment all the time sometimes when I'm commenting on a video and they say, oh, let the video play and then comment. Well, sometimes you can't always do that because you'll get a strike. So I apologize, but you're here to just to listen to me babble anyway, hopefully. So that's what I'm going to do. But what I want to do is rather than leave it at the commentary and the critique of what we're going to watch, let's not take it as seriously as Meghan wants us to take it. Because I'll tell you what, look at it through the lens of what narcissists go through in their minds, how normal people like us look at that and deal with that, and how we can move forward. I've called for prayer for this woman many times on my channel. If you've been with me for a while, you know. Um, this woman needs healing. And as a Catholic Christian, she is on my prayer list daily. She's annoying. And I really don't like or respect anything that she does or stands for. But you know what? I'm going to continue to pray that this woman makes amends with her family, hers and his, and hopefully moves forward to really embark on meaningful changes in her life that could be really worth something rather than this endless barrage of paid PR marketing that she tries to throw in our face, which is exactly what we're going to be watching. So that's what I want to do. I want to comment a little bit. I want to go into the video and then let's talk a little bit about narcissists, how they look at the world themselves and normal people like us, and then how we can move forward and just pray for these people because that's exactly what they need. Was there something else I wanted to tell you guys before we started? Maybe not. But yeah, let me get to the video. Okay, so the first thing I did want to talk to you about before we go into the video, this is from GB News website. It's talking about Meghan Markle honoring royal family member in high profile appearance with Prince Harry. What they're talking about is that she's supposedly wearing a ring of Princess Diana's. And that's the way that she's paying, I guess, a sweet tribute and honoring his mother. She wore a ring from Princess Diana. And she's wearing pants that while she's wearing them, Harry could probably crawl inside there too. You guys, this is a Ralph Lauren pantsuit. Does anybody think that looks nice? Do you know how filthy city streets are? And more than that, how filthy New York City streets are. Can you imagine what the bottom of those pants look like at the end of the day? And I don't care if you're walking from your security detail vehicle just right to the stage. I mean, that's just that's just not hygienic. That's gross. I don't understand. So basically it's talking about how she got there and Prince Harry is there supporting her as you can see, which is also on brand because I've talked about this before. She never shows up for him in any real meaningful way. I've noticed that she shows up for things that he's doing, if he's being honored, if there's a red carpet involved, or there's an opportunity for her to dress up. But say if he's just appearing in court, or if he's doing something like this, where if he's getting paid to speak somewhere, just a regular daytime event, she is rarely there. So that's not the case for him, though. He has to show up for her. So it's just basically talking about how she arrived there, and she's chatting with Time Magazine's CEO, a woman named Jessica Sibley, who I've never seen before. We will see her in the video. And basically, this is what the summit aims to do. It's spotlighting solutions and encouraging action towards a better world. I don't know if you've seen some of the people that were also on this stage at this summit, but Ryan Reynolds is on this stage as well the same day. I guess he spoke a couple minutes before Meghan was supposed to. I think I'm going to make a video and talk about that because I haven't talked about Blake and Ryan for a while, and there's some mania going on there. But and Blake Lively was in the Time 100 top list, made the list last week. They want to spotlight solutions and encourage action. And Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and Meghan Markle are three of the people that they're using to encourage action towards a better world. Let's all just scratch our heads collectively. And then also she's describing herself as the happiest that she's ever been in her current life, which I do not believe for a microsecond. You cannot be happy with the amount of backlash that you're getting. And she talks about how she's the happiest she's ever been. And she's also reminding us that she doesn't go on social media and look at what's being said about her. Only on a need to know, like must know basis is anything shared with her. Do we believe that? I don't believe that. Not on my tea do I believe that. But yeah. Let's just go ahead and watch the video, shall we? Okay, so this is Jessica Sibley. She's the CEO of Time Magazine. She kind of reminds me of the actress from Philly. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Her name escapes me right now, but she is funny. She's totally funny. She kind of looks like her a little bit, but she looks really, really happy to be there. In my notes here, I have put little timestamps of stuff that I want to share with you guys. So forgive me if I have to go in and find the points because again, these elites that only want positive PR put out about them don't like when mommy sleuths like me are out here critiquing them. Never mind you that they are constantly throwing up on us on an almost daily basis with their platforms and their podcasts and their shows and their puff pieces like in People magazine and all this stuff that Meghan has done since the very beginning, using paid PR vehicles to try to promote herself to us and to establish a certain facade. I need to just stop. We will get into all that, but let's just listen. So this is Jessica introducing her. And she calls Meghan a founder, a CEO, an innovator, a creator, and an investor. She's got a lot of titles, so let's just listen.
Just lunch after. I want to talk about you as a founder, as a CEO, as an innovator, as a creator, as an investor. We have the CEO of Netflix here. I did binge your show.
Dun, dun, dun. The CEO of Netflix is there. Do you think he's happy with how With Love Meghan did? Because when they introduced it to the world on their YouTube channel, that was like a 90% ratio negative to positive comments. I don't think old Ted was happy about that, but he's there in the audience. I've only watched this one time. That's how I figured out what I wanted to select and show you guys. But listen to when Miss Jessica says that she watched it. Listen to the non-response from the audience.
With Love Meghan. There's nothing you can't do, which is amazing. But talk about how this became a business.
Did you guys notice that the audience did not make one peep? You could hear those crickets playing violins, let me tell you. So how did it become a business, Meghan? Well, she tells us. Let's hear what she has to say about it.
I think just naturally, I was doing what I've always loved to do. And people couldn't see that more broadly, but what I'd love to do was always make things in my kitchen, do small flower arrangements, make a lot of jam.
So this is what she did when she was at the TIG. She was promoting a certain type of lifestyle, but the TIG was a little bit of a different angle. And mind you, she wasn't as well known back then. She was a actress on a cable TV show that was a moderate success. And what she was trying to do was travel a lot and build up her CV, her resume around the world. And she wanted a lot more exposure than she was getting. She wasn't really getting that far talking about cooking and stuff on her blog. So she tried to play the whole travel angle. And then when she wanted to go over to Great Britain and find a wealthy English husband because she knew she was getting written out. And the socialite Lizzie Cundy talks about this because that's the one that Meghan got into contact with, Lizzie Cundy. Lizzie Cundy talks about how she felt used and discarded by Meghan because Meghan wanted to use contacts to find an English husband, a rich English husband. So that's when she flipped and hired PR to promote her as a humanitarian. But what Meghan's trying to do here is rewrite history and make it seem as if she's always loved cooking and lifestyle stuff and she's just going back to her roots.
And when I was sending those as gifts, one day Bella said, "There's a show here." And I hadn't at the onset thought that that was something that I wanted to share in that way. And creatively, we worked as
She's talking about Bella Bajari, who's the chief content at Netflix. So Meghan, let's break down what Meghan is saying right now. Meghan is saying that she wanted to go back to her roots and just showcase what she loved, which is just pouring dried flowers of love on her friends and making jam and doing lifestyle things. And she was doing these things and presenting and giving gifts to people who I guess she was trying to probably kiss up to. And this Bella was one of them. And Bella was the one that I guess came up with the idea that there's a show there. Like Meghan needs to have a show centered around just what she loves to do, which is just to become the hostess with the mostest here. And if you'll notice at any time Meghan talks about something that she's doing, she talked about that when she was wanting to write her book, The Bench. Her friends were trying to say to her, you should publish this, you should do this, this is a great thing. So it's always as if it's somebody else's idea because she's so modest that she would never want to put herself out there of her own accord. It's because everything that she's doing is so wonderful and making a difference that people in her life are pushing her to do it. So, I guess she'll do it because the reception's just been so wonderful. And it's kind of like, okay. I don't buy it because she was desperately trying to get out of that whole Tig era. And she was doing it by trying to promote herself as a humanitarian by paying her PR people at the time. She was using most of her Suits money to employ a PR team to present her as this humanitarian. That's when she went over to Africa and had that, week-long trip or something where she was focused on that well that was being built for that poor community, and she was being photographed with all those African children. But she brought that fashion photographer with trunks of clothes, and they would disappear for hours at a time together and all that. So she was using what money she had to try to figure out, okay, how can I strategically do this to market myself? So she wanted to leave all this behind. She wanted to be rich and famous and marry someone famous and plug this whole humanitarian side of herself and get into these circles. And I think she wanted to present herself as a humanitarian so she could catch Harry's eye because that was in his wheelhouse. That's everything that the royal family does, is everything is about philanthropic efforts and charity and things. So I think that that's what she wanted to do, to catch a rich aristocrat's eye. And also, if it was a really smart way to position herself, because when you position yourself as a humanitarian, a person that's just interested in charity and doing charitable works for others, she can paint herself as not being a social climber. It's not about that for her. She's trying to catch the eye of Harry so he can see her because she's out there being like an Angelina Jolie trying to just save the world, and that's what's going to make her attractive to him. So that's why this all doesn't make any sense, because her telling the lady that she's just wanting to go back to everything that she's always loved but couldn't show it to us because of that pesky royal family that she was involved with. It's just, you see what I mean? This is just all nonsense, just straight up nonsense. So she had a lot of chances to try to show us who she was, right? She had archetypes. She had that Spotify thing. She's had this Netflix thing, which didn't pan out. Harry's tried. Most of his Netflix stuff hasn't worked. The only thing that worked was when they were collectively bashing the family together on Netflix. That's the only series that they did that made them any kind of, well, I mean, they made the money, but I guess I could say that's the only thing that really made them popular with Netflix, was the fact that they were trashing their families. His Polo thing didn't work. The Heart of Invictus thing really didn't mesh with audiences. So she knows time is running out. So she tries to make it seem as if she was planning this business for over a year and all that. I don't believe that either. I think it was a last dash cash grab. The American Riviera Orchard trademark was dead in the water. She was scrambling. She had to do something. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the birth of As Ever. Okay. That's how As Ever came along. But there is no authenticity here. And she talks about authenticity all the time. Nothing could be more authentic than if she sat on this stage and actually talked about how the business really played out, all of the struggles. What if she went on stage and said, I've got money and connections and this is still hard? I'm having a hard time. That would at least be something that people would be like, whoa, that's something we weren't expecting her to say. But we're never going to hear that. Never, never, never.
Okay. If you haven't, Ted's gonna be very happy. Megan's gonna be very happy.
Again, crickets. No one is responding when they're bringing up her Netflix show. I mean, that's kind of embarrassing, you guys. I'm sure she was seething at that or very uncomfortable.
It's amazing. What I love about the show is that you bring in your family, you bring in your friends, the crew, you make them part of the show.
That was very important to me.
Talk to me a little bit about, you care for so many people.
She cares for so many people. But let's go back to what Jessica just said. She brings in her family and well, she has friends, I guess, but they're actually people on her payroll that are mostly on that show, the makeup artist and all that. Ooh, hear that thunder? That's crazy. Harry was brought in for a microsecond at the very end, and his only line was pretty much telling her, oh, he loved it. He loved her little brunch spread, and he was happy for her. But he wasn't in the show. I didn't see her kids in that show. I saw half a second glimpse of her mom, and even her mom at the very end scene of that show. Doria is such a tell. She's such a tell as to what really goes on behind the scenes, because Doria said to her in that last scene, in the last episode of With Love, Megan, oh, are these from the garden? And I almost thought that it was snarky. It was like persnickety of Doria to say that, because we're all supposed to believe the Megan Gardens, right? Yeah, right. She goes to the farmer's market. Okay, listen to this.
And you talk about joy and love. Everything that you do comes with caring for the people that are on your show and around you. You're CEO. There's a lot of glam, but we know there's a lot of grit and grind. How do you care for yourself?
Oh, thank you for asking.
I'm looking for the question in that. And look at that face. She's very happy to be asked that question, because now she can talk about herself, which is what narcissists love to do. But did you hear anything that Jessica just said? Did you hear a question in any of that? All I heard was a bunch of flattery. And it didn't even sound like genuine praise. It just sounded like flattery that's meant to keep a narrative going. And the narrative they want to keep going is that this is so hard being a female founder, entrepreneur. And there's so much grit that is involved. She has so much money and connections. She does not have the typical entrepreneurial experience. Absolutely. She has no idea what that means. So this is just fueling the narrative that she is a put upon woman, and this is so hard what she's doing, but she has risen above everything to build an empire based on jam, you guys. And we need to be very, very just not only appreciative of her time that she's on this stage, but we need to just be quiet and listen. Like what I'm doing right now, I'm not listening. Is there something to be learned here? I don't know. There's one point when Jessica said, you're so loving and you take so much time to really, really take care of people. And how do you do it? And Megan just basically says, well, that's my love language and that feeds me. And when I take care of others, it's part of my self-care. And that may seem confusing to a lot of people, but when it's done right and authentically, I'm just like can we just drop the whole self-effacing act? That's like when a smartass goes for a job interview and the interviewer says, well, what about you and the way you approach your work or your personality or your philosophy or whatever, what would you say are things that you need to work on? And then the person will respond back by saying, well, I just need to stop caring so much. I just need to stop caring so much about my job. I mean, like, you see the way that she manipulates language and the way she tries to take an idea and manipulate it, like the idea of self-love. She's equating her idea of what self-love is. Her idea of self-love is taking care of other people. But self-love means self. Other people are other people. And you can still be a great person and still say, I need some time alone and I need some time to focus on myself, because if I don't, I'll probably go stir crazy. So I make sure that I work out for an hour every other day, or I make sure that I read a book that really interests me that has nothing to do with business so that I can escape, or I like to do yoga, or whatever it is this woman likes to do. But she's going to posture and continue to try to further this narrative that she is just this mother goddess or earth woman that's just, she's so many things. But what she really loves to do is take care of others, and that's what fills her cup up. I mean, I don't buy it. No one buys it. It's human to get tired, and it's human to just want to just curl up into a ball and cry sometimes. Or if you've got chaos going on in your house because of little kids, it's okay to want to just close your bedroom door for a sec and take 20 minutes to yourself and not have to be a mom for 20 minutes. I mean, that's normal. People can relate to that kind of stuff. And people would relate to her a lot more if she would stop this garbage. It's just so, oh yeah. So, all right. So the other one I wanted to show you guys was, I got my notes here. It's at 3:08. I don't even remember what it is she's going to spout, but I wrote 3:08 on my notes. So let's listen to what she's talking about here.
If you're doing it in a way where you are giving in a way that is thoughtful and intentional and so authentic, it actually energizes you as opposed to depleting you. So as an example, when you mentioned the crew as a character, when I said, how are we going to...
You know what? That is true for the most part, but that's true for normal people, not narcissistic people. There's nothing that a narcissist does that is not performative, that is not transactional, that is not something that they can get back in a positive way to them. A narcissist is not going to do anything just for the sake of doing it. They're going to do it to make sure that they get something. And what I find is when she talks about her family and she throws out tidbits about her family, and she's going to throw out a tidbit later in this interview about how Archie's going to be losing a tooth soon and she has to get home. So every time she throws out stuff about her kids, it's just to remind us that she really loves her kids, and that's her most important thing in her life is being a mom. But you can say it once, but it's every single time she has a stage and a mic, she's banging on about it. And that's what doesn't ring authentic. It doesn't ring true. And plus, I'm sorry, but you spend so much time away traveling without your children that to me doesn't speak of children being your number one priority. And you can agree with me, you can disagree with me, but you know what? For the last 2 or 3 years, when they've been traveling around to all those different countries or doing all those different things and whatever the heck they're doing, their kids were small enough that they could have taken them and they could have had help taking them. And they didn't have to be separated as long as they were. I mean, it's not like she's the Queen of England touring the Commonwealth and she's got all these crazy dinners and banquets and meetings that she has to do. No, come on. I don't buy it.
To do a cooking show or a crafting show that doesn't feel like a typical stand and stir, which we all remember from back in the days. We stand, look at camera, and you're stirring something.
I would have really preferred her to just stand and stir and maybe talk to us a little bit about what she's doing and why. She didn't do a stand and stir cooking show, though, because she's not a cook. That's why she didn't do a stand and stir cooking show. She couldn't just do a cooking show like a Barefoot Contessa or like a Nigella Lawson or like a Pioneer Woman. She couldn't do a show like that because she doesn't have the chops to cook. So she had to overlay all this other stuff like killer bath salts and flowers on everything and talking about lettuce with Alice Walker. She had Alice Walker on there, the pioneer of the whole food organic movement. And she didn't talk to Alice about anything about Alice's philosophy about food. She just talked about how she was raised on fast food. And then, oh, Alice, teach me how to make an olive oil balsamic vinaigrette or whatever it was, which anyone can do with a 30-second Google search. That's why she didn't do a stand and stir. She got that show because she's a duchess and she's married to a member of the British royal family. But she's always making excuses as if she's upping the ordinary and trying to innovate it, making excuses for why things are subpar. When you read her stuff, listen to her stuff, or watch her stuff, why it's subpar, making excuses. She's been afforded a platform. God gave her this platform for whatever reason, and this is what she's doing with it. And it's shameful. It's really shameful. Okay, so here we go.
I didn't necessarily want to do that, and I didn't want a reality show. And so the only way to feel as though you were still in
She didn't want a reality show a la the Kardashians because you see a lot of different sides to the Kardashians, and love them or hate them, you know. The Kardashians will film a show of them screaming and yelling at each other and throwing down and clawing at each other. Remember that one where Kim and Kourtney were clawing at each other and fighting, and Khloe was just there like, ugh. No way on God's green earth that Meghan would ever show that. Ever. And even just a fourth of that she wouldn't show. Like, she has to keep up the facade. The facade management is crucial at all times. All times.
conversation with me, I felt, was I had to be talking to the people in the room with me. And that was the crew. And, you know, on Suits, we had a crew of over 200 people. So, and on this show, it's a crew of 80 people.
Why'd you bring up Suits just now? We're not talking about Suits. We're talking about with Love Meghan, with a crew of 80, but let's continue.
Which also, when people said, why didn't you do it in your house? I was like, well, my kids are coming home for their nap, and 80 people in the kitchen isn't really the childhood memory I would love for them to have. So we were really fortunate to find.
I've said this before. I don't believe 80 people. It took 80 people to put that show together. She maybe had 5 or 6 in her kitchen at once, but not 80. And plus, you live in a 16-bedroom house. Whatever nanny or nannies are looking after Archie and little Betty Blue there, you don't think that they would have the children at the opposite side of the house so that they wouldn't be disturbed? Or more like Meghan would be saying, do not bring those children anywhere near where I'm filming. You know, I mean, does any of this make sense? And then they're talking about how the show was renewed. The show wasn't renewed. Everything was already filmed. But again, language manipulation to the utmost power. It's just insane to me. And then she also goes on and talks about your first drop at your As Ever launch sold out in like 30 minutes. But then Meghan, modest as ever, corrects her and says, oh, but it was 45. It was 45. And it was over a year of work. And again, we all know it wasn't a year of work. Let's get real. Just talk. It's in the public domain. The American Riviera Orchard trademark fell through, did not work because on her end, the paperwork was not filled out properly in a timely manner. There was a kerfuffle on her end and it did not work. Why don't you talk about how hard it is to secure a trademark, even when you're rich and famous like she is? Give us a little bit of perspective. Humble yourself a little bit. But she's glossing over everything as if it was just, she talked about that in the podcast, that she had secured As Ever in 2022 and wanted it to be a vertical arm of American Riviera Orchard under that umbrella of American Riviera Orchard. Who believes that? And plus, we don't even know about how much inventory she had in As Ever. She could have had 100 jars of spread. It's not that hard to sell out 100 jars of spread in 45 minutes if you have the name notoriety of a Meghan Markle. I mean, let's be honest here. Come on, people. So here's the next part I want you guys to listen to.
Interesting is it to be able to listen to the conversations of someone building a business while they're doing it. And that includes all of the pivots and twists and turns and
Remember, she's in the building phase. I talked about this in my critique of her episode 1 Confessions podcast. She's constantly reminding us that she is in the building phase. She's building. And I feel that that's a way to counteract any criticism when it looks like she's not prepared or she's floundering or things are going wrong with the business, that she's building. So in essence, that means that she's above criticism and you should just leave her alone because she's just feeling everything out as she goes. But then, by the same token, she's being lauded on a stage today because she's built such an empire and everything is such a success. I don't know if you could call As Ever a success yet. Selling out spread in 45 minutes, okay, we'll give her that if that is indeed true, but we still don't know how many units she moved. You go back to the website as of today now, and most everything is still showing as sold out or coming soon. That is, what is that? Like, you need to be up on this, Meghan, because people are going to forget about this. They're not going to care. And after you've launched your second wave, your third wave, your fourth wave, and we see some numbers and you can tell us about what's going on. But until then, I don't buy that it's a successful empire yet.
Directions that happen, as any entrepreneur will tell you, every day is full of surprises. And on the Netflix series, I will say surprise and delight. In the business of building, they're not always delightful surprises, but they are great teachable moments. And so I think some of the confessions that I have shared on the show.
She's going to show us teachable moments. And that's the basis of the Confessions podcast. It's confessions, teachable moments. I've listened to all of episode 1, all of episode 3. I'll link those below in the description or somewhere on the screen. I listened to half of episode 2 without wanting to claw my own eyes out. I don't hear any business confessions there. I hear a lot of her talking about how she's a victim and how her guests are victims. So, sorry guys, listen to this.
So include, I'll give you an example, the unboxing experience, where I was so concerned on the aesthetic of how something would be received, because it goes back to presentation and hospitality in so many ways. I said, well, I need to get the dimensions. They were finally able to give them to me, what the 3PL was going to have in the tissue paper, but I needed to see it and feel it.
She just gives way too much sidebar info that no one cares about. What she's basically trying to tell us is that one of her confessions is that she had a lot of woe when it came to packaging, and she was up at night because of packaging, and she was obsessing about packaging because to her, it's the presentation. It's about hospitality. It's about welcoming people. So she wants people to feel seen and loved and welcome when they unwrap her $27,000 bottle of jam. Sorry, I'm kidding. It's not $27,000, but it's like what, 14 US maybe, but for jam. But anyway, so she's talking about how she bought all the materials to try to replicate the ultimate unboxing experience. And I'm thinking to myself, that's a lot of emphasis on the exterior, but then again, on brand for Meghan, because there's a lot going on the exterior, a lot of fake smiles, facade management, different things. But what's at the heart? What's at the heart of the 2 podcasts so far? Not a heck of a lot. What's at the heart of the With Love Meghan show? Not a heck of a lot. So this is on brand. Just focus on the exterior, how things look, rather than what goods she's offering and delivering up. And it's just the story of her life, you guys. It's all about appearances. And notice, she's not even talking about the product itself. She's still calling it jam, ladies and gentlemen. But it's technically spread. She can't call it jam per, Food and Drug or whatever, FDA, whatever she has to get approved for this stuff. She herself is still calling it jam when it's technically spread. It says on her label spread. So that shows you how far removed she is from the actual thing inside all this packaging that she's freaking out about. Make this make sense.
That I needed my hands in it, which I think is part of, for me, my authentic self is really being involved in the creative and the granular. So I went online, I bought all these cardboard boxes.
Yeah, okay. I already told you this. You said that. So again, the focus on the external is mind-boggling to me. She doesn't have anybody on her team that has experience with this stuff that could take that off her plate so that she could focus on Archie and his lost tooth. Make any of this make sense? So she's talking about that, and again, still calling it jam, even though it's spread. And there's a ton of throat clearing. There's a lot of dramatic pausing. She's talking about she's authentic. This is rehearsed. This is rehearsed talking points. Rehearsed. And she's got a very tense, clenched jaw whenever she's waiting and listening for Jessica to ask her questions, because I would imagine as a narcissist, you're so worried and concerned with how you're coming across that you can't relax and let your guard down for 1 second. I think that's why she's always got her jaw clenched and why it looks like she's so uneasy, because she kind of probably has an idea of what Jessica's going to ask, but she doesn't know specifically. And that must be very, very difficult for someone like her who has to be in control of every single thing. So I'm going to move ahead to a little bit where she's talking about her family and how Meghan is the happiest she has ever been in her life. So let's watch this, shall we? Oh, sorry, guys.
And that part, to have a partner and a husband who is just so supportive, and to have healthy kids that are so joyful in the freeness of their life and the safety of their life that we create for them.
Did you hear that? That's a dig at the royal family. They have freedom and they have safety, something that they do not have had they stayed in the royal family. Now, isn't that funny? Meghan and Harry contradict themselves constantly. So she is just telling us that she's very happy and her children are free and her children are safe. Well, you might want to talk to your husband, because your husband really doesn't think that they're free and safe. And that's why he wants round the clock security and he wants US taxpayers to pay for it. So you might want to talk to Harry about how safe and free he feels, because I don't think you guys are on the same page here. So there doesn't seem to be a lot of communicating going on behind closed doors in that family. This is facade management. I truly believe if she really cared about her family, she wouldn't be shoving herself down our throats 24/7. Because I look at Harry as he's showing up at these court hearings, and he is not a happy person. He didn't sign up for this social media lifestyle that his wife just adores. He wants no part of it. No part of it at all.
I never, of all the things that have happened in my life, I never would have imagined getting here at this point. I would feel just so happy and grateful, and I really do.
Well, let's see this.
That's the only time the audience has clapped, you guys. That's the only time. I don't really think that she feels happy, and I don't really think that she feels grateful. Narcissists are never happy. They're always looking for their next dopamine hit in the way of whatever it is that they're searching, whether it's power, fame, money. They want notoriety. They constantly want people to... There is just a big hole. If Meghan had God in her life, if Meghan really ascribed and loved and saw something outside of herself, she wouldn't conduct herself in this manner. People that are out here criticizing her, people are out here criticizing her because, one, she's throwing herself into the public domain constantly, but she's trying to virtue signal constantly to us as if to tell us what we think and what we believe is incorrect because it doesn't jive with her, the way she conducts herself and her worldview. You can have a seat at Meghan's table as long as you agree with everything that Meghan does. And there's a lot of people that don't agree with what Meghan does. There are people that care about family and care about family dynamics and making sure that families are strong and taken care of. Her actions do not speak of having that as a priority in her life. She treats her own family like garbage and she treats his family like garbage, but yet she's going to espouse to us that her family is the number one thing in her life and that's all she cares about. It's not authentic. It smells fake and phony, and people are tired of it. People are really tired of it. So I'm not saying that I'm a perfect person, but it's just sad to watch. And for people like her to keep showing up and keep perpetuating this type of narrative that people who are more traditional, that don't like this divisiveness, don't like the things that she's been doing, we're not wrong. We're okay. We can have opinions too. And there's nothing wrong with saying that we need to pray for people like this who are hollow and shallow and really need help and prayers. People like this need to look outside of themselves and really do it and stop saying, oh, I'm doing it for self-love and self-care. No. Do it because you want to help other people and you need to see outside of yourself. That's the whole basis of Christianity. The whole reason why Jesus Christ came down to save us is to save us from ourselves. We have to love him and we have to love and serve others first and foremost. And this is just victimization. This is self-pity. This is me. And it's being constantly shoved down our throats. So until she stops all this garbage and gets real, people are going to criticize. They're going to keep criticizing her, and I'm sorry, but that is just the way it is. That is just the way it is. So here's another one that I had marked to show you guys.
And try to give yourself the space and the grace to make mistakes, to know that you're not going to get it right every day. And at the same time, to prioritize what we're going to put out as equally important to me as Archie losing his first tooth this week, which is about to happen, and I just hope we're back home in time for it.
I already talked about that. If you care about your kids that much, you wouldn't be away from them for that long. You wouldn't. You just wouldn't. I'm sorry. And you could agree to disagree. But again, I use the Queen as an example, her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. She had a duty. She had to be away from her children for long, long stretches of time. She was an actual working royal. Everything that this woman and her husband have engaged in for the last 5 years is about self-promotion. They're making the promotion of self a higher priority than time spent with their children. And that's indicative of how much they travel and how much she's away from the kids. And I'm sorry, but you can't change my mind about that.
That it all matters. And when
If she has kids, allegedly.
you look at your life through that perspective, which frankly being a
And she's always, when she talks, it's, I've about had with that.
parent gives you the most illuminating perspective, because what is seemingly so big somehow becomes so microscopic in importance compared to what's happening with your children. That's certainly how I feel, that you just make time to.
Nothing is more important than my kids. Nothing. My life choices reflect that, but I'm not gonna bang on and on this channel and tell you why being a mom is the most illuminating, or it illuminates everything and it makes me it's like, you just do what you're supposed to do because it's the right thing to do, because God put you in charge of these little souls. And if you want to be a good parent, you're going to make them the number one priority. That and your marriage and your family, like that's the number one priority. But you don't have to constantly remind people about it. It's like constantly seeking validation and praise for something that you should be doing anyway. You chose to be a mother for whatever reason. We don't know how these kids came into the world, but she chose to be a mom. She chose to be a mom. So just do the job and stop banging on about it. We're all getting real sick of it. We don't hear Catherine, the Princess of Wales, talking like this ever. I mean, I need to do another Kate video. Haven't done a Kate video in a long time, and I definitely think that we need a palate cleanse for sure.
To do it all. And I think maybe that's what is hopeful. That's what feels like the dream.
It's the dream, guys. It's the dream. And then this next one I'm going to show you guys. Jessica basically asks her, what does she do to stay focused and minimize distractions? And she's talking about the backlash that she gets. And I'm actually surprised that Jessica even asked something even hinting at this, because I am sure that Meghan communicates to the people who are hosting these types of events. I am sure she communicates that there are things that you will not talk to me about, and I will not answer this, or this. Not that these type of elitists are going to throw anything but softball questions at one another, because again, it's all about facade management. But she basically says, what do you do to minimize distractions? And, you know, sometimes you get a clap back. What do you do? And this is Meghan's response.
What did he say? Tina Fey said, if you're feeling good about yourself, you don't want to, what did he say verbatim? If you're feeling good about yourself, go online. Right. Yeah. Just go online.
Now, remember how they tried to tell us when they did that Jane Pauley interview that social media was toxic and horrible and all this stuff? And she told us in the Oprah interview it should have a warning label, the tabloids and all the, I don't remember. Was it that interview or I forget? But, okay.
Online. So I don't do that. I've made a...
You do that, Meghan. You do go online. You have a Shop My page. You have an Instagram page that you are on every single day posting stories to. You have a website now. Don't tell me that you're not online. Don't tell me that social media is horrible and rotten and hateful and causes people to unalive themselves, particularly children, because of the hateful bullying that's rampant online. Don't tell me that, you know, it should come with a warning label and you and Harry are going to devote your lives to stopping online cruelty, but then use online to build your platforms, to build your empire. Can the walking contradictions just stop walking and sit down and take a breather? Because I can't keep up.
Very, very conscious effort to create boundaries for myself and for my mental health, for my well-being, and certainly to role model that as well for my children. I'm conscious of not just raising a very strong and confident young woman, but also
These elitist liberal leftists always have to differentiate. What? Listen to this.
having a son, I think, it's just as paramount of importance.
They love division. They love divisiveness. They love pitting the sexes against one another. And Whitney, her first podcast guest, did this as well. They're always trying to talk about how raising a son so he won't grow up and be a toxic man and he's going to cow to all of the feminists and all this kind of stuff. It's like, why not just say you want to raise a good human being to treat other people with respect and love and dignity? Why are they always trying to differentiate raising a girl and raising a boy? Yes, we all know there's differences between raising girls and boys, but the way that they're always trying to spin it is that raise a son so that he's not going to become a toxic man, toxic masculinity that's running rampant through our culture because all men want to do is just put us down. Mind you, marrying a white privileged white man is what gave her this platform in the first place. Make it make sense. Make it make sense, guys.
For young men to be raised with a confidence and sense of self that is going to empower the women around them too. So I try to model that behavior, but again, like, it starts with whatever's going on internally. And when I am able to not even just tune out whatever that noise is, to really not give it any credence, that has become so much a part of my day-to-day life.
She doesn't tune out the noise, guys. And I'll give you an example about how she doesn't tune out the noise. Do you remember when the With Love Meghan show, I don't know if it had already debuted on Netflix or if it was just about to, there was an influencer out there who I think is somehow associated with Limonada herself, but there was an influencer out there who said, "Oh, Meghan, I'm kind of scared for you, watching this preview. Ooh, like, what is everyone going to say? I'm kind of scared. Ooh." And then Meghan sent her something in the mail with a handwritten message with her calligraphy saying, "Oh, don't be scared. The best is yet to come." So don't tell me that she's not watching like a hawk everything people write about her. That is just such a bold-faced lie. You really want to tell her to just get off of it. Get off of it already. Because of course she's going to pay attention to social media. That's how she's trying to build an empire, is on social media, trying to go back to her roots. And this is what she's always loved to do. And it's on social media and she wants to share with people. But if you really want to share, you might want to open up your comments on the Instagram profile there, Meghan, and actually get into it with some of the criticism. And maybe, I don't know, maybe do an interview that's not softball like this. Just a suggestion.
And things will get brought to my attention on a need-to-know basis. Outside of that, I'm kind of late on the boat for a lot of things going on.
At least she's self-aware on that point. She's late to a lot of things, gotta say. I want to apologize to you guys. I'm learning this new software, StreamYard. Today's the first time I'm actually using it, but I'm learning as I go. I apologize for that, but I wanted you guys to listen to a little bit of the end of what Meghan is saying about how she doesn't really pay attention to any of us plebes. She just focuses and has her nose to the grindstone with her empire. And that gives her peace.
Of the products, the creative, or the producerial work that we're doing that I want to bring to the table. So it does give me a lot of space to focus because I'm not in the same swirl that a lot of us find ourselves in.
So we're in the swirl. We're in the dirty, disgusting swirl. And she's just above it all. If she was really above it all, she wouldn't be trying to build a flower sprinkle empire. She wouldn't have to care. She's got more than enough money for her children and her grandchildren to just disappear and live a private life. She doesn't want that, ladies and gentlemen. And then we're talking about flower sprinkles at some point here on my notes. Let's listen to this. We're almost done, okay? I'm sorry if I've kept you from your life. I apologize.
Yeah, about flower sprinkles. So I just... So all things to be talking about for time 100. Let's talk about flower sprinkles.
Exactly. See, that is a slip. She knows how ridiculous it is to talk about flower sprinkles. And I want you guys to hear this because I thought of scrunchies when she was talking about this, and I'll tell you why after you hear it.
But let's, because I think it speaks to the tiny moments of joy, that are so effortless and just create a little bit of magic that we're all craving in our everyday. They're tiny little flower petals that are dried. I started putting them on salads. I started putting them on scrambled eggs. It didn't actually matter on a yogurt parfait. The level of charm that you find people have when they see these tiny little dried petals is something I can't fully wrap my head around, but I appreciate that there is a love for the detail and the small level of
People are making fun of her because of this flower sprinkle thing, because it's a completely dumb, idiotic thing to try to say that you're known for. They really don't bring anything to the table. And I think most people, when they would see that sprinkled on whatever they're trying to eat, they would be like wasting time trying to pick it out. And people were banging on about how you could go on Amazon and buy rabbit food that looks just like what she's putting in a tin and selling for, what is it, $20? So, but she's talking about flower sprinkles as if it's this wonderful thing that she's known for and she's humbled by. That she's not known for it. She's being ridiculed for it. She's being raked over the coals for it from a business standpoint, because that's what she's trying to sell to us after all of this 5 years of being away from the family and finally starting to find your freedom and your everything you wanted to do and build here in the States. And that's what you're giving us. That's what people are talking about. They're saying that that's inconsequential nonsense. That's what they're talking about. But she's talking about it as if it's this gift that she's given to society, her flower sprinkles. The reason why I thought about scrunchies, because it would be as if the inventor of the scrunchie, which pretty much every woman alive that you know has in her house, and she probably uses it at least once a day, whether she's cleaning around the house or wrapping her hair up so she could go to bed in. Like, that's a product that's really entered into public consciousness and has made a difference for a lot of people, women with long hair. It would be like as if she's talking about it from that kind of vantage point. Like, I invented this. It really has impacted generations. It's like, no, Meghan. I'm sorry, no. So it's not charming. It's annoying. So, okay, let's continue here.
on unexpected moments.
Yeah, because it brings joy. Flower sprinkles bring joy.
And as a CEO, you're going to patent that, and that's your IP, and no one can steal it. It's going to be very effective. Thank you. We had
No sound from the audience. Did you hear what Jessica just said? That is your IP. She's saying that's the flower sprinkles is your intellectual property that you're going to patent, and no one can take that away from you as a CEO. Can this interview get any more inane? And all they're doing is slapping each other on the back, smoking their cigars, drinking their wine, talking about how wonderful they are and what an impact they're making, an impact that's going to be felt for generations. Sprinkles. Can't take this anymore. Okay, I'm almost done, you guys, because I really want to go. I want to go live my life and find out what my children are up to, because I am the best mother ever. And I am just going to go spend time with them. That's all I care about. I'm such a wonderful mother.
excited about the rest of this year and into 2027. Thank you for asking. I think obviously focusing on our family and our children is the most important and first platform. It all stems from there. But beyond that, as I continue to work.
Did you hear what she said, you guys? She's focusing on her children, and that's her first platform. That's the first thing that she cares about. She is equating her family with a platform. That tells you everything that you need to know about this narcissistic woman and her priorities. She sees her family as a platform to monetize. Language is very telling. The way that she manipulates language and the way that she uses language. She either uses language to hide behind because she's always spouting these word salads that mean nothing, or she's being very, very strategic and she's exposing herself to us. Let's go back to that just a little bit, because I think that's very, very interesting and very, very telling. So what was the question? Something along the lines of, what are your plans, Meghan? Now that you've conquered the world with flower sprinkles, what are your plans?
But beyond that, as I continue to work to uplift other female founders, it's really using the platform of Confessions of a Female Founder to do that, to continue to expand my portfolio of investment into female-founded companies because they are so under-resourced and under-supported. That is very
So, you know what I think this is? This is a tell. So, she's talking about how her next focus is going to be advocating for female founders and for investing in female founders because she knows the writing's on the wall. The Netflix thing is going to go bye-bye soon. The Spotify thing is gone. They have not been successful in the way that they wanted to be. They haven't got the fame that they've got the fame they want, but not the type of fame they want. They're more infamous than famous. I think she sees the writing on the wall and she's prepping us for that because if these things fall away, which they will, if this newest podcast falls away, when the Netflix deals fall away, that's going to be the new persona. The new persona is going to be, she's going to be behind the scenes advocating for women and funding their endeavors. So she's setting us up for what's to come because she doesn't have any other alternatives. That's why that's important to her. She now has to focus on other people's concepts, other people's creative ideas and IP, and work to promote that and hope she can make a little money off of their backs. Yep.
As I continue to invest in them, investing in myself with the business of As Ever, scaling that to growth, and then
Scaling it to growth, that remains to be seen. I wish her all the luck in the world, but I don't see it happening. Not until you change your ways, Meghan. Change your ways, change your life, pray. Sad.
there'll be more surprises. Can't wait.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you so
Congratulations.
much.
All right, enough of that. So I want to show you guys that thing about narcissists that I promised you at the beginning of the video. This is from a Catholic website, and it's called How the Narcissist Sees You. It's a very, very good article, but what I wanted, and some of the headings here, are you significant to the narcissist? How they idealize you to catch you, and then how they devalue you, and how they blame shift, how they claim victimhood, and all this kind of stuff. Oh yeah, so this is what I thought was very interesting when they were talking about blame shifting. They're saying narcissists see themselves as victims no matter how much they hurt others. They believe that the world is against them and that you are a primary cause of their suffering. This victim mentality allows them to justify their actions, including manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional abuse. So again, that's why Meghan and everyone that she surrounds herself with, they always claim victimhoods when they get clapped back in the media. We are the reason why, if anything goes wrong in her life, because just by nature of the fact that we're criticizing her. She doesn't get that we're not criticizing her as a person, a child of God, who has dignity in of herself just because of that, just because she was breathed into existence, she has value. But narcissists at their core, they do not have any type of self-love or self-actualization. They cannot learn from mistakes and past behaviors. So she has inherent value just because she is living and breathing upon this earth. But that's not enough for her. She doesn't have any self-love or self-worth, and it's about the exterior. It's about the facade. Because she doesn't love herself, she doesn't really understand how anyone else can love her either. So that's why she has to build up a fake persona that is constantly seeking that validation. And it says here, from a Catholic perspective, we recognize that suffering is a part of life, but we are called to endure it with grace and seek healing in Christ. The narcissist, however, refuses to acknowledge their own faults and instead projects their suffering onto others. They rewrite history, they portray themselves as the innocent party while casting you as the manipulator. And that is so, so very true. And whether you're Catholic, whether you're Christian, whatever. This is so wonderful and so insightful. And it talks about, as Christians, as Catholics, we believe in things like unconditional love, forgiveness, self-giving. But people like her take advantage of these virtues, and they see your love and your corrections as a way to manipulate them and a way to control them. So they just see everything as a power play, as a chess move. So she's going to come out and she's going to disrespect the Queen and Philip and the family and the institution, and she's going to hurl baseless accusations at them over and over and over and over again. And if people say, hang on a minute, that's not right, let's look at the facts, let's look at what everyone is saying collectively, what has their experience been of her, have we been able to debunk some of what she's saying? When people clap back in good faith to say, wait a minute, that's not right, that's seen as a manipulation. That's seen as a power play move. So that's why they continually engage in trying to one up us. Remember in that video that I did, where I'm ranting for 11 minutes about Harry and Meghan. Go check that out if you haven't seen it. That's actually a pretty funny video. I have a lot of funny GIFs in it. But anyway, that's why she walks around and smiles so much, because to her, it's just a power play. It's a way to manipulate us, as if to say, I don't hear anything of what you're saying, because how dare you even say it? So I'm going to continue and smile through it all. So just public gaslighting. That's why people get so incensed with her. And that's why people talk about her incessantly, because she really, at her core, she messes with our idea of truth and prudence and justice. She wrecks that whole idea. Justice is giving people their due, and it's doing what's right. And she doesn't engage in justice. She doesn't do what's right. She manipulates, she gaslights, she rewrites history. So it basically talks about things that you can do, whether or not you're someone who feels gaslit because you watch her in the media and you see people like her constantly in the media, all these celebrities like all the Blake Ryans and the Ryan Reynolds of the world and the Megans of the world, or whether you're I'm so sad for you if you are involved with a narcissist and you have one in your life. But it says how to break free and find healing. Ground yourself in truth about who Christ is, what his words are, how we have to deal with people like this. Seek wise counsel. Talk to a priest, a therapist, a support group. Set boundaries. This one I love. It says set boundaries. Jesus himself walked away from those who rejected him. You have the right to protect your peace. Practice self-compassion. Don't let them gaslight you. Don't let their false accusations define you. She's constantly trying to rewrite her narrative and to hide behind her groupthink and her platitudes. That's how she practices her self-compassion. But we know that we're being gaslit from people like her. And the last and most powerful thing, it says pray for the narcissist from a safe distance. While it can be difficult, prayer is powerful, and ask God to work in their heart. So that is really what you need to do, is you need to look at someone like her who is constantly throwing herself in our faces in the public domain. We have to pray for her because she has a hole in her heart. People like her and the Blake Lively's and the Ryan Reynolds of the world that want to manipulate, want to use their fame, their power, their money in order to manipulate people and people's opinions of them. They have holes in their hearts because they have this hole that they can never fill. The only thing that can fill that hole is God and his love and forgiveness. And until that day comes, we just need to keep calling her out, albeit in a respectful manner. But if it has to be harsh criticism sometime, it has to be harsh criticism. We're not sitting here talking about her skin color. We're not talking about any of that. We are talking about her behavior. So let's pray for this woman. Let's pray for these fools they are fools. I mean, let's call it what it is. She is a fool to continue to carry on like this. So I hope you guys like this video. I'm going to say a little prayer for her tonight. She is on my prayer list. This woman needs help, and so does that husband of hers. And if those kids are around them, on a daily basis, they need prayer too. It's a mess. So I'm going to wrap it up. I've talked long enough. Be on the lookout for the next Joan video coming, chapter 5 of My Way of Life. I would love if more and more of you would get onto that series and watch it, because we all need a palate cleanse. And if you want a real diva, listen to Joan Crawford, my Joan Crawford playlist. I'll link it in the description. Thank you guys. I love you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.